I actually left two or 3 months prior to the HSC. I know this probably sounds silly to a lot of your listeners, but at the end of the day, it's not about what piece of paper tells you what you can do. It's life experiences and how you have grown through the process.
This is Property Investory, where we talk to successful property investors to find out more about their stories, mindset, and strategies. I'm Tyron Shum. In this episode, we're chatting with Joe Dirani, a property investor and an author. You'll follow his journey on how he started investing in property, his setbacks, and how he overcame them. Dirani fills his days by speaking to everyday Australians and sharing his strategy for property investing with them so that they can achieve their goals.
I connect with everyday Australians and show them a specific way and a strategy on how to successfully build a property portfolio to enable them to retire comfortably and so that they can build the nest egg that they desire and deserve.
Dirani published a book called It's Just the Beginning.
It's all about the strategies and the decisions and the choices that I've had to come about to get me to where I am now, and also to show people what is possible, and also about my life, where I'm taking my life to the next level, and how I'm getting to that next step in stage in life, but also how I can inspire and impact and empower others to do the same thing. And really the message about this whole book is that anything is possible with the right mindset, with the right principles and philosophies that you have to believe in, and on top of that, surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's basically the end all of the book.
He grew up in Western Sydney. Straight after high school, he sought out work experience instead of education. This worked for him in the long run.
Born and raised in Sydney, Australia, but I was actually born in Penrith, so the Western Sydney.
Dirani went to high school in Western Sydney, but didn't finish high school. He believes that life experience is more important than a university degree.
I'm the eldest of 6 kids, and it's really involved in written in the book. But eldest of 6 kids. Actually, funny enough, I actually didn't finish school, knowing that I wasn't going to get the grades to get into, or the UAI or whatever they call it, to get into university to become a civil engineer. I decided that going through the route of understanding steel and boilermaker welding and all these things, so that I can then become a draftsperson in some way, shape or form. So that's what I've done. I actually left two or 3 months prior to the HSC. I know this probably sounds silly to a lot of your listeners, but at the end of the day, it's not about what piece of paper tells you what you can do. It's life experiences and how you have grown through the process.
Joe Dirani started his career working as a boilermaker welder, but he found a sense of enjoyment and job satisfaction when it came to drawing. This enabled him to be an all-rounder employee and help secure jobs.
So boilermaker welder is basically everything got to do with welding and in heavy structural steel. So all your large beams and so on and so forth. It's actually been a long time since I've worked in that field, but that's where I started. And I actually enjoyed the drawing side of things. And what I done was, because I was able to weld pretty well as well, I was able to get a good job in boulder straightening and making handrails and so on and so forth, and staircases. So that's the field that I went into. But yeah, because I was actually good at reading the drawings itself.
As he discovered his skill in property drawings and saw firsthand the fruits of his work as a boilermaker welder, this is what led Dirani to become interested in property investing.
My father built our dream home, and he spent a lot of time and energy. And when I was going through the drawings, he actually designed it himself, obviously with the architect and so on. But that's where I found the interest in more or less not property in general, but more or less the drawings and the architectural drafting side of things. And so I actually did what they call it work experience in year 10 and year 11. I did that with an architectural firm. So I sort of had the hang of it because I actually enjoyed AutoCAD and Revit and so on, which is some of the programs and the programs that they use.
He got work experience in an architectural firm during high school, After that, he went into ball making. He then became a drafter.
Well, that's when the story does finally glue together as to, what happened to us. So, I'm coming into my final 6 months of, of my architectural drafting. I was qualified, Boilermaker welder. However, I had 6 months to go in regards to my drafting course and be credited for that. However, 2008 came around very quickly. Being aged 18, I quickly, we quickly hit a brick wall, so to speak. My father and I decided to go into business together, being in the field that my father's always been in, which is mixed businesses and convenience stores and works. I decided that I wanted to be my own boss and work with him rather than working for other people. Still continuing on with obviously my drafting. However, what happened was GFC hit, and my old man unfortunately overextended himself financially, and that's when we were hit with over $1 million loss, where we pretty much lost absolutely everything. And that's when I saw my my parents, and I saw them as naive as I was at that age. On a pedestal. We had a big beautiful house in Penrith, and everything was going well from the outside. But then when the GFC hit, it actually hit my old man really, really hard, and we actually walked away from that business.
When the GFC hit Dirani's family, they lost a substantial amount of money and were forced to walk away from their business. He sees this experience as a blessing in disguise.
That's where my story really starts. And at the, in the initial beginning, I was, very scared. I was, it was all about the unknown. But what I did, and without being judged in any way, shape, or form, I had to. Well, I felt like I was the victim, and my father was the victim, and why us? And this isn't meant to happen, and started to point the finger at other things and other people, and as you do. And very quickly, I had to then become the man of the household. I had to really step up and take responsibilities and pressures off my mum and dad. And that was probably one of the toughest and lowest point of my life. But in hindsight, it was actually a blessing in disguise. And I'll potentially get through that either with you now, or, you can, jump on and grab the book.
Despite the bad experience faced by Dirani and his family, he made a conscious decision to face the music and not to run away from his problems.
I'm not talking about our loss as one of the biggest losses and so on and so forth. There are a lot of other people out there who are, facing hardship and financial stress and so on, above and beyond us. So there's people out there that are not, eating, so to speak. So please don't, I don't want the listeners to think anything of this as oh, poor us. However, being in that, absolutely. So being in that predicament, we, I was very, very upset, down. I started, saying things like, never going to be successful, never going to have good things, never going to be able to, do things freely and have that, financial freedom and so on and so forth. And basically, I had to step up to the plate without me realizing, because I had two options. I can run away, or I can step up and be a man at the age of 18. And thankfully, I was guided in that direction. I was sort of, given that light to say, what, you got to, step up and help your family. So basically, to in short, I went out there straight away to get a job, and I found myself in a cafe, working as a barista and a kitchen hand. I was from memory, I was earning about $600 a week, but I was giving $550 to my father so that we can just at least keep the house going. And then, a few months down the track, basically an opportunity came up for us via my dad and one of his networks. And mind you, nobody helped us in that real slump. It was us, and that's it. Nobody was there to turn to. Nobody was there to help.
For Dirani, this opportunity represented a way to move forward and to change his family's life.
And basically, I thought about the opportunity, and it was actually a big change, because we had to move, 4 or 5 hours away from where we grew up. So there was a big, cutoff as to what our lifestyle was all about and what it was. So it was a big decision. However, thank God, I can say in a sense that we did take on that deal. And without jumping into too much in detail of that deal, it wasn't the fruitful or as good as it looked, but it was the only opportunity that was going to enable us to be able to walk out or at least keep our heads above water. And in saying that, it was also another blessing, but that was when, things really got tough in the sense of living 4 or 5 hours away from where we used to live and where things, where life was, cousins and family and friends and so on. And but this is where I aged and matured very quickly, because I actually had to look after that business. I had to take responsibilities of that business. And mind you, I don't have that experience. I had to just go in there literally blind. My father says that he was there to support, and my mum was there to support. But to be totally honest, and my old man actually said this to me, but he was asleep over that next 2 years. Not on his own sort of merit. It was just depression hit. That fear, and when you have 6 kids and a mortgage and everything is just all on top of him. So he was there, but he wasn't.
Initially thinking they bought into a great opportunity, it was supposed to help them create a life they wanted.
Back into the supermarket and friendly grocer sort of chains and food works sort of chain. So like an IGA, so to speak, but on a smaller scale. So that was the opportunity that came up. And, at first it was a good deal. We thought, great, this is going to help us and rebuild and whatnot. But, fortunately, even that wasn't the case. But that is where my life really took a turn. Because in that first year, now being 19 and 20, I started to ask that question properly. Not why is this happening to us, but why am I here? Why is this all happening? Is there a reason behind all this? And that question is the most powerful questions that you can ask yourself, and one of the most profound questions that you can ask yourself, because that question has got me to, or led me to where I am today and where I'm going in the future.
By asking himself why, Dirani used this line of questioning to reevaluate his life and goals. It worked in his favor.
So at first I didn't know, but you start to research, and you start to look at other things and look up other things. And funny enough, personal development literally was there in front of me. I just had to search for it. And when you're searching for that why, that's pretty much how you go on that endeavor of trying to find yourself. And as silly as that sounds, that is the truth. And basically, I come across a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Definitely. A lot of our guests actually recommend that too.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying this just because of. I'm saying this because this is the truth and what's actually happened. And basically, it was talking about defining your purpose and defining who you are and why you're put on this planet Earth and so on and so forth. We've got a bigger purpose to serve than just to be a human being, wake up, go to sleep, go to work, pay your bills, and so on and so forth. And that was the questions or questioning that I started giving myself. And to share it with you guys now here, basically my purpose is to inspire, empower, and positively impact millions of people's lives around the globe and around Australia especially, and showing them that anything is possible, because I have been on the other side of the coin. I've seen the tough hardship of not being successful, not being your true self, not being able to fulfill your dream life purpose, whether it's through your career or being as a father or whatever the case may be. And for me, I want to show that light that anything is possible, because to cut the story short, 8 years down the track, I'm now a successful property investor. My family are now 2 times where they were when they lost everything. And it's not because of me. It's because of the drive and the why. The why was that strong that I was able to help not just my mum and dad, my sisters and my brother-in-law, and be that role model that I always dreamt of being. And then it started to, go above and beyond that and start to impacting people on a bigger scale. When I got back to Sydney, I bought myself a cafe, and that cafe, thanks to personal development, thanks to my why, thanks to my drive, thanks to, having that push from God knows where, enabled me to be where I am now and where I'm headed, and how that I can inspire others and to do the same thing, to have the right mindset, to have the right mentality and the right philosophies and the right principles to follow and pursue. And that, my friend, is basically the true reasons of the why questioning. And that's why it's so profound.
Dirani got started into property investing from the business he owned. He was reluctant at first due to his prior experiences.
I thought the property that my old man built, that always had a very rough look at it whenever I started to think about it or so on and so forth. I actually felt that property was the reason why we went into so much, of a deep hole, so to speak, in the hardship that we went through. So at first, property wasn't my ideal sort of vehicle to start investing, a lot of money into. However, once I got back to Sydney and I bought my cafe. Actually, I will share this little side note here. When I moved back to Sydney, we were in debt for roughly about $830,000. That was, bad debt and with the house debt and so on and so forth. I actually told my dad, I'll take that debt off you so that you can then wake up and wake up with all due respect, right? It wasn't just like, wake up, Dad. It was, so that he can, look after the rest of the kids and so that I can, get us out of this hole. That was my promise to him and the family, and to myself. And basically I had to take on that debt. So mind you, I'm 21 years of age. I felt like my life was, going away from me. I felt like I was 41. Hence why I decided that I wanted to get married and settle down and really get into, into life, and my journey and so on and so forth. But anyway, that was just a side note. Sorry to digress there.
That's okay. That's great. Yep, keep going.
Yeah, so with $820,000 debt, that was the deal, like I said, with my old man. I then got more debt, thanks to my beautiful wife who, had accepted me at my ultimate low in the sense of financial and where I'm headed. It still wasn't clear, right? However, we borrowed some money and we bought a cafe out in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. And that shop, like I said earlier, really lifted us off, really gave us the extra cash flow and that growth to be able to pay off all these debts and so on.
Within 2.5 years, Dirani was able to buy his dad's house from him and pay off $600,000 worth of debt.
And since then, I started to see a lot of extra cash flow. And what I did, as I fixed up my books, as you do, so that you can, start to get, money from banks and so on. And because of, those 2.5 years being in the cafe, I was, really heavily indulging and diving into personal development like you wouldn't believe. I was looking at other models of creating wealth, other vehicles of creating wealth. I was looking into, network marketing models. I was looking into, shares, and I was looking into property, and I was looking into everything and anything that was going to enable me to grow a lot faster, a lot quicker, because I felt like I deserved more. I felt like I needed to do more and become more because of that why, that drive that I started to learn about myself. And just to cut it in short, basically, once you go to these events and seminars and so on and so forth, you meet some incredible people. And, I was fortunate enough to meet some people who are involved in the property investment space. And I won't mention names or company names, but he actually mentioned to me that, hey, Joe, I'll show you how to invest in property the right way and the most educated way with the right team. I was like, okay, that sounds good. So to cut the story short, basically, I got involved into property and I was able to purchase 1 or 2 properties straight off the bat. And he just showed me how simple it was to be able to do so. Mind you, he had to really convince me that this is the right vehicle for me because, mind you, I still had that feeling and that apprehensive feeling of property because I didn't really believe in it up until I met somebody that has been involved in it and who has a property portfolio of, I think at the time he had 6+. So I was very, inspired by the person and I admired where they were and where I wanted to head to. So I had that connection.
Dirani's strategy for property investing involves 3 phases.
And once I started, but the first phase is acquisition. And at the moment, it's quite tight. So the listeners might be like, well, how did he do this? You got to remember, this is now 4 years ago. And basically back then it was a little bit easier to gain property, or especially with LMI and all that, so 10% deposits and so on. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, the strategy or that within the phases, because the second phase is holding. You've got to be able to hold property and afford to hold onto property so that you can really see the benefits long term. And then obviously your consolidation phase. However, you desire to part with your investment portfolio, whether you sell a few and pay off a few or whatever the case may be. But the holding phase is the most important phase. And basically, I learned that brand new property gives us great depreciation, great tax minimization skills or benefits, I should say. But also that brand new property in master plan communities is where the growth is, because especially when you look at Sydney, it wasn't viable. It's not viable still till date. Affordability and to be able to hold on, cash flow wise, on a weekly basis or monthly basis, you're going to be out of pocket just to hold on. So it didn't make sense to me. It made sense to me that I was investing in the right locations with the right people and so on and so forth. So that's been the strategy. So once I bought my first two, it was then easier, because in the bank's eyes, my income was growing and so on and so forth. And I forgot to mention, obviously, once I got involved into property, being in my cafe, I felt like, I'm doing really well now. I'm saving good coin and money, in other words, but doing really well. I don't need to look for any sort of other business opportunity or anything like that. However, the gentleman actually said to me that he's looking to grow his team, and he's looking for somebody like me that had the energy and enthusiasm and passion behind me, thanks to the why that I have. And he was actually inspired by that, a millionaire himself. So for me, that was like a no-brainer to take on this opportunity. So I actually took up his offer and be part of his company. And being a client as well, I was able to to see a few holes that were missing that I could bring to the table to help grow that business. Anyway, back to the story. Really, what we're talking about in regards to the two properties, my income grew as well, and serviceability now is more important than how much cash you have in the bank. And I'm sorry if this punches a few people in the gut, but it's not like it used to be, and I'm glad that it's not, because otherwise we'll have the same problem like America did. And thank God that we've got all these tight rules and regulations in place so that we don't face this problem like the States did, that were giving loans to literally anybody that can breathe and walk. And so now serviceability is a big thing. So your income has to grow, as you grow your portfolio. And the strategy is obviously once you sit down with people in front of them and show them the strategy, because, just by listening to it, it's not really going to give you the insight. It's all about the cash flow and about the holding and about where you purchase and how you purchase.
Dirani shares some of his earlier tougher financial experiences with his father in relation to his worst property investment moment.
And again, this comes back to surrounding yourself with the right people. And I can't stress that enough. So I don't want to say that it's all been sunshine and roses. But there is hurdles. There are always hurdles when it comes to investing, whether it's through the finances and trying to get all the paperwork sorted, or whether it's settlement dates, and whether it's selecting the right property, or whether it's delays and this and that. That's probably the only hard thing. And you know what? The biggest, toughest thing that you'll face is parting with your dollars, especially knowing that you're not going to be able to pull it out as quick as you having it in your account. And that's a big thing. And I'm not saying that's a low, because it's actually something that we educate and coach and mentor our clients now to do so with confidence. But at the start, initially, especially for first-time investors, this is directed to those guys, parting with your $80,000 or $100,000 that you may have right now. That was a bit hard to swallow.
His aha moment was that he could purchase a house and land package that saved him thousands of dollars by reducing the stamp duty costs.
So when first walking into the investing world, especially when it comes to property, there was a lot that I didn't know about established property versus brand new property and so on and so forth. So like the biggest one, the biggest takeaway besides the depreciation schedule, I mean everybody knows that now, but the stamp duties, and that was a big thing for me because besides the fact that you've got warranties and guarantees in place for brand new property, you've got stamp duties that are, you're only paying on the land because it's two-part contract, even though you're buying a home and land package. And that was a massive saving, and where you go, okay, great, this is really good. I mean, there's $15,000 minimum saving here. It doesn't matter where you're investing in. If you're able to purchase a house and land package and build a full turnkey property, which is owner occupied designed, because at the end of the day, for you to be able to take the growth out of the property per se is by being able to sell to the open market, not just to another investor or just one target market. You want to be able to sell to the open market, and that's when you're going to get your bang for buck, so to speak, when you start to consolidate. And so that saving initially was really, really good. Now another thing was leverage, because I didn't fully understand that. Even though I was heavily indulging in personal development. They were talking about that word, but I really didn't understand it. And what I come to learn, and something that we implement in our business today, which is the 4 pillars of leverage when it comes to investing in property. And when you look at these, they're quite profound. But once you start to implement them, not only just in property or investing, but in your life completely, in all aspects of your life, you'll be able to create the wealth and success that you deserve and desire. And it was all around leveraging other people's time, skill, experience, and obviously money. And that is a big aha moment for investing in property.
To begin with, what was it that held him back from initially investing in property?
My belief around property, as I mentioned earlier, was the fact that, it was a burden on our family. It was the reason why we, went through that shortfall. And mindset really started to play a big part in my life, because I had to start believing what's possible. I had to start believing in the people. I had to start thinking of the positives versus, what's the worst thing that's going to happen. Mind you, there's always that conservative side of your brain where you need to look at those things. But at the end of the day, the most successful and the most wealthy people out there today will tell you that they can make sound, educated, informed decisions by just a pure fact of the belief and gut instinct as well, and having a scale, looking at the pros and cons. Not diving into too much detail, because that's where you can actually get yourself out of taking a risk. And I believe, not taking a risk is far greater than the risk itself. And that is what we call the cost of inaction. So a lot had to go into place about, believing in myself, believing in what I can afford to do, believing in what is, what I deserve to have, and also how I can achieve it, whether it's through property, whether it's through business, whether it's whatever the case may be. So definitely that would pretty much sum up how I had to quickly start changing in regards to my mindset.
Dirani sought mentors in order to help him envision, then aim for, and progress towards his goals.
So the gentleman that I originally started off with and invested with, I looked up to him. Okay, so that's the first thing. I wanted what he had, so to speak. And it's not about the material stuff. Please don't get me wrong here, guys. And I'm sure all of you will understand this. You've got to have some sort of inspiration behind you, whether it's the clothes that they're wearing, whether it's the business that they have, whether it's the portfolio that they have, whether it's the success that they have. That needs to draw you to them, so to speak. And also that he was, able to or willingly able to give me his time. And, that's something that I always looked up to, besides our role models, which I highly respect, our own mum and dad, but they don't know absolutely everything, right? So they're experienced in their own field, and they know what they know based on what they've been taught and how they grew up. But now you need to seek these other mentors and coaches to be able to, broaden and open up the horizons in regards to not just what's possible, but your mind as well. Because there's a lot of limiting beliefs, stacked up from your early childhood. So you believe in things not because this is your own intuition of it or your own beliefs on it, but because that's what you've been taught. So I was looking at mentors that can really guide me through the process and really educate me so that they can, and also give me their time about what they believe in and how they've expanded and grown and progressed through life, business, and career.
These mentors included honourable people in the property sphere. From there, he learned to invest in his personal development before anything else. Books
was the first one. So I'm not going to lie, Napoleon Hill is not with us today. May he rest, in peace. But I was still able from that book to gain so much knowledge and so much power and belief. His words was, and I quote, "What the mind can conceive and believe will achieve." And that was something that I had to continue to believe in and affirm to myself. And then you start to open up, other books, and then you start to go into these other events, and you start to meet some incredible people, as I mentioned earlier. And one of my biggest mentors, even though I haven't actually sat down with him face to face because he's worth, $1 million a year of coaching, is Mr. Tony Robbins himself. However, I've been in his presence multiple times now, and let me assure you that you have to put yourself in these situations so that you can grow. And I really can't elaborate more than just purely putting yourself in those positions, putting yourself in those environments, and then asking the question for help. There's a lot of people here on here that's listening, and even myself, was that we were scared, not because of our ego, but just because of our own insecurities, asking for that word, help me grow, or help me learn about this, or help me about that. It's been inbuilt and embedded in us from such a young age. So when you start to, really ask the question, hey, I really need help. I really need a team to support me, or to help me understand all this properly. That's when you're going to get these coaches and mentors spending time with you. That's when you're going to get these people who are willing to invest the time in you. Actually, I just said the word invest, and investment doesn't just mean in property or in shares. The biggest investment you can do, and I'm not just quoting this because it's on here and because I've read it a million times, but it's so true in the sense that I've never thought in a million years that I would invest over, $60,000 in 1 year just on my personal development and my business coaching. And let me tell you that investment in me is better, or has paid off 10 times more in that 1 year space alone.
In terms of resources, Dirani recommends many volumes of knowledge that you can apply to your own investment journey.
There's a lot of books that I've been able to read over the past, and actually I found an even better vehicle for me, because I found that I was better learning from listening versus reading. I've never been that type to read. I mean, you can't go wrong with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Another book, obviously, is Tony Robbins' The Unshakable. Your financial freedom, so to speak. There's many, many, many more. Like, for example, the 10x rule from the likes of Greg Cardone. People like Jim Rohn, The Miracle of Self-Discipline, and Brian Tracy. Those people. The Losing My Virginity is a biography of Richard Branson, and there's so many messages in there and so much knowledge in there that you can start implementing. One of my favorite, actually, from Simon Sinek is actually Start With Why. And that book was just like a validation of the book of Think and Grow Rich, and also defining my why, and always being able to lead with that has been able, enabled me to create the success that I have now, and obviously where I'm headed, and that I can then project to my clients and their futures and impact them in that way. A few other things like Zig Ziglar, The Secrets of Closing, Jim Rohn again, Success Equations and Personal Development, The Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. I'll just share a couple of others. The Wisdom of Wallace D. Wattles. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. The Secret to Success by Eric Thomas. The Secret by Rhonda Burns. I mean, these are just some of the amazing books that I've been able to listen to and, always go back to and refer to.
The best advice he's ever received? To believe in yourself.
It's so profound and so simple, but believe in yourself and that anything is possible. That's my message. So I can't go. I mean, there's a million other words of wisdom that I've come across over the last, especially the last 6 to 8 years of diving into personal development. But that one is the biggest. Believe in yourself and that anything is absolutely possible.
Dirani's property investment journey is centered on purchasing in areas with high growth potential within the earlier stages of development.
Besides saving a lot of money on some government costs and so on and so forth, like your stamp duties and so on, after the build was complete, the land, because we actually invested in an area where it's got high growth potential and there's a lot of infrastructure and work and net interstate migration and so on. When investing in these types of areas, you want to invest in the first few stages, because yes, even though there's hundreds, if not more properties on the market or going on the market or going to be built or going to be developed, when you buy in the first few stages, what happens automatically is that when you get to the next stage, or when the developer gets to the next stage, they increase the land price by a minimum of $5,000 to $10,000. So you're organically growing your land valuation by a minimum of $10,000 in the first year. So that is one of the strategies that we utilize. I've had clients as well as myself who have seen growth of up to about $40,000. And you're probably thinking, Joe, they're not big numbers to share with these people. But I want to remind the listeners that if you are looking at this for short term, I'm definitely not the right person to talk to. And you are definitely confusing yourself with an investment strategy of instant gratification versus long-term wealth creation as a safe investment form. Because unfortunately, a lot of people looked at Sydney and said that, oh yeah, we invested or we bought in 2011. Would have been the best time for them to invest, but they didn't know that they were going to double their property value over those 2 years. Because if you actually look at it, property actually travels at different cycles. And when you look at the 2008 to 2013, there's 5 years there where the property market was stagnant in Sydney.
In building his portfolio to include 2 properties in Brisbane, 1 in Melbourne, and another on the outskirts of Melbourne, what locations should property investors be investigating for their next purchase?
Just to explain to the listeners as well, I'm not too sure if all your listeners are from Sydney or where they're from, but if you know Sydney well, if you have a look at Parramatta and or the Hills District, these are the type of areas that we look at investing in. Because as you can see, there's no, you can't build more land in Sydney per se. So what they're doing is they're growing on the outskirts of Parramatta and the satellite cities and close to the CBD and whatnot. And these are the locations where the growth really happens. If you have a look at the Hills District, if you look at 4 or 5 years ago, you can potentially buy a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car, or whatever the case may be, for under $500,000. Now you'll be lucky to purchase anything for $1.2, $1.3 million in the Hills District. And if you know your geography and know Sydney quite well, then a lot of people can relate. And they're the type of opportunities that I always seek to invest in. And then also because Sydney is such a high price point, I still can't. When I say can't, I choose not to invest in Sydney right now because of the cash flow and the holding concept and everything like that. So there's actually opportunities out Newcastle way where you're still getting a strong rental return, but also there is the growth there and the infrastructure there. A little bit to share with you is that there is a methodology that I implement, not only for myself, but all my clients when investing or prior to sourcing or recommending on a property opportunity. And it's going through a methodology of micro and macro research and also understanding all the term of leverage and all the tools that we can use when it comes to leveraging, whether it's the mortgage brokers and the conveyancers and the builders and developers. And, is it time to invest in a house and land, or is it time for an apartment, or and these strategies all come into place based on your circumstances. So what works for me might not work for others because they're in a different predicament or different circumstance. So that's how you have to leverage everybody's expertise in the right way. And there's a time and place for each investment. So it could be a townhouse, or it could be an established property, or it could be a home and land, or it could be an apartment. So for me, I've been able to successfully invest in over 4 properties at the moment, and seeking to invest in my 5th one in the time frame of less than 4 years, and basically leveraging the equity and the growth of the properties and whatever surplus cash that my wife and I have had.
Yep, and that's also through your business. You mentioned the cafe business, is that right? That is being able to generate a bit of income to be able to put into your portfolio?
Yes, absolutely. That was initially the first 2. And then when I got involved in the property business itself, 15 months later, I had sold my cafe, and I built my own business called Ample Property Solutions. And, nothing against the company that I originally, purchased off and also invested through and worked for. I found there was a lot of gaps in the process and the strategy. And that's where I started to, think about potentially building my own business and having that as a vehicle for people to utilize and work for and with. And so that's why I've been able to do it through the contacts and the resources that I've been able to build over that 2.5 years.
A personal habit which Dirani attributes to his success is to constantly remind himself of his true purpose.
What happened was I always, wanted to learn more about how to really stay positive, how to really stay energetic and enthusiastic and happy and excited and really pushing to my limits and also beyond them, so that I can achieve more, become more, have more, and inspire more and impact more. And there's two things. So the first thing is I actually recorded what my definiteness of purpose is. I recorded that with a little bit of background music just to give it some light. And, you know, it shares, obviously, you know, my purpose is to inspire, empower, and positively impact millions of people's lives around the globe and around Australia, and showing them that anything is possible with the right mindset and principles and philosophies. And then obviously it goes on to what my legacy is for my family and for my extended family and my immediate family, and also for others, how I can guide and educate and help and you know, really give back to communities and charities and organizations and so on. And I listen to that every morning without fail. And that sets my day up for the rest of the day and also for the week. That really gives me, it puts me in that that energy, or that state, I should say, of you know, pure enthusiasm and excitement and growth. It opens the windows of opportunities for me. And you know, I always say these words: it's just the beginning. And that's the title of my book, because when it's just the beginning, as you, I'm sure, would know, whether you're starting a new job or whether you're starting a new relationship or whether you're starting anything new, you are at your most excited self. You are at your most enthusiastic self. You are at your most energetic self. And that enables you to tackle the day with abundance and growth and happiness and life, of you know, blossoming and growing and progression. So saying those words and listening to my purpose on a daily basis without fail, religiously, so to speak, is something that I do habitually now.
If you're 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years down the track in your journey, how do you continue to be motivated?
Your drive is going to continue to help you to push and grow. There's nothing better than being on purpose and on path to what it is that you're put on this planet to do. At the end of the day, it's all about serving people and serving others and how to give back and how to help other people grow. And when you're on that type of mindset, and I know not everybody, this is not for absolutely everybody, and I get that. I completely get that. But you've got to find out for yourself what it is that you're here to do and why. And once you do that every day, waking up knowingly that this is it, this is what it is that you're supposed to do, then you are going to continue to be motivated and you know, enthusiastic and excited. I mean, what's there not to be excited about and motivated about if you're really on par, even through the struggle periods? They are, yes, tough at the time, but you got to remember you are where you are today because of the decisions and the choices you've made in the past. So if you're able to change the story behind what's happening, you can see that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. You can always see that there is growth. You can always see that where you are now is not where you're going to be in 10 years' time. And as long as you have that in the background, and obviously, again, surrounding yourself with the right people, they're going to keep you continuing you for you to push and to stretch and to really get out of that comfort zone. That is key to continued motivation and enthusiasm.
On considering where he was 10 years ago, what would Dirani advise his younger self to do?
Don't worry, dream bigger now, not later. Because at the end of the day, that gap, like I said, take the risks, take the action, you know, stretch yourself, get out of your comfort zone, do all that now. Otherwise, you're going to miss out those 10 years. You're going to miss out on those 10 years. And that gap is far greater than the risk originally or the opportunity that was there at hand. So if I met myself 10 years ago, I would say, mate, keep smiling, keep going, because, you know, you got a big future ahead of you.
If you'd like to connect with Dirani and learn more from him, you can do so via phone or email.
You can reach personally on my email, if you like, joe@amplepropertysolutions with an s.com.au. Alternatively, they can call me on 1300 590 594, and I'll be more than happy to assist and or one of my colleagues.
Dirani and his team at Ample Property Solutions will help you strategize your next investment move, tailored to your circumstances.
We have a holistic approach and an approach that guides, educates, and help and coach and mentor our clients in order for them to build a property portfolio safely over time, backed by a team of industry-leading experts. So we're talking about everything from A to Z when it comes to investing in property Australia-wide. And we understand the markets. Now, I'm not saying that we know exactly what the market is doing, but we follow the trends. We follow what the big guys are doing. There's no secret. There is no secret. When there's infrastructure, when there's growth happening, there's no secret. So we guide our clients to do so because it's not easy trying to invest on your own. You can make more mistakes. So what we do is we mitigate and minimize the fear, number one, of investing, but also mitigate the risks that are involved when it comes to investing in property, especially when you're looking at different states from where you currently live and reside. And we take our clients through a journey of, based on their circumstances, what it is that they're trying to achieve to do, what it is that they're trying to build towards, and we work off that circumstance. So we personally tailor-make a strategy for you, even though the concept is the same. But some clients or some people may only need 2 investment properties rather than some that need 10. So it is all personalized as well.
Thank you to Joe Dirani, our guest on this episode of Property Investory. If you want to hear more about his journey, then visit our website at propertyinvestory.com.